The South Pacific sun glints off the waves as a formation of B-25 Mitchells streaks across the Bismarck Sea. It's March 3rd, 1943, and these bombers are racing to intercept a Japanese convoy attempting to send reinforcements to New Guinea. But these are no ordinary B-25s. Having proven ineffective against Japanese shipping in the traditional medium bomber role, these Mitchells have been given an extreme makeover in the field by maverick veteran aviator Major Paul "Pappy" Gunn. True to his name, Gunn has transformed these once vulnerable bombers into flying arsenals, a whole new player in aerial warfare. The gunship. Gone are the glass noses and bombardier stations. Solid gun platforms, bristling with 4 forward-firing 50-caliber machine guns, stand in their place. Additional weapons protrude from new blisters along the fuselage, turning every inch of the aircraft into a potential firing position. As they hurtle towards the Japanese convoy at just 200 feet above the waves, the crews push their modified Mitchells to the limit. The Wright R-2600 twin Cyclone engines strain against the extra weight of the guns and armor plating. Their combined 3,400 horsepower propelling the aircraft's 35,000-pound frame through the air. The pilots maintain a delicate balance, keeping their aircraft low enough to evade detection, but high enough to avoid the ocean's spray. Testing these new commerce destroyers, each pilot knows that one wrong move, one structural failure, could send them plummeting into the unforgiving sea. The story of the B-25 Mitchell began in the late 1930s as another world war loomed large on the horizon. The United States Army Air Corps issued a specification for a new medium bomber in March 1939. This call for a more advanced aircraft was driven by the rapidly evolving nature of aerial warfare and the limitations of existing medium bombers like the Douglas B-18 Bolo and Martin B-10, which, while serviceable, were quickly becoming obsolete in the face of advancing fighter technology and the need for longer-range bombing capabilities. The Army Air Corps recognized that future conflicts would require bombers capable of striking targets far beyond the front lines, while also having the speed to evade increasingly capable enemy fighters. With this in mind, the requirements for the new bomber were ambitious. An aircraft capable of flying 300 miles per hour, carrying a 3,000-pound bomb load, and having a range of 2,000 miles. These specifications represented a significant leap forward from existing medium bombers. For comparison, the B-18 Bolo had a top speed of only 215 miles per hour, a bomb load of 2,000 pounds, and a range of just over 1,200 miles. The Army Air Corps hoped that this new bomber would bridge the gap between the aging medium bombers and the larger, heavier bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress, providing a versatile platform capable of both tactical and strategic bombing missions. 4 aircraft manufacturers submitted designs. Among them was North American Aviation. The company, led by James H. Dutch Kindleberger, had already made a name for itself with the T-6 Texan trainer. However, its previous bomber attempts, the NA-21 and NA-40, had both failed to impress the Army. So for this new project, North American knew it had to make a significant leap forward. Lee Atwood, North American's vice president and chief engineer, was tasked with developing the medium bomber. His goal was to create an aircraft that was not only easy to fly, but also simple to repair and maintain. The design team drew valuable lessons from the NA-40 test program, incorporating successful features such as the tricycle landing gear, twin vertical tails, and underhung nacelles. However, the new aircraft, designated NA-62, was far more than just an improved NA-40. It featured side-by-side pilot seating and increased speed, range, and payload capacity. The wing was repositioned to a shoulder mount, and the gross weight was increased by 8,000 pounds. While North American initially preferred the more powerful Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, they ultimately opted for the proven Wright R2600 Cyclone 14-cylinder radial engine, each producing 1,700 horsepower. The NA-62's fuselage was designed with a width of 56.5 inches, allowing for comfortable side-by-side pilot seating and increased bomb bay volume. Initial defensive armament was minimal, consisting of a flexible 30-caliber machine gun in the nose, another in the waist position, and a 50-caliber gun in an innovative clamshell plexiglass canopy at the rear, providing an excellent field of fire. This design received a far better reaction from the Army than its predecessors had. In a vote of confidence, they signed a preliminary production contract for 184 units of the NA-62, now designated as the B-25, in September 1939, even before the first prototype was built. This bypassed the usual prototype testing phase and spurred North American to accelerate its efforts. Construction of the first B-25 began immediately at North American's Inglewood, California plant. Less than a year later, the first units were ready to take to the skies. The maiden flight of the B-25 took place on August 19, 1940, with company test pilot Vance Breese at the controls. Initial testing revealed some stability issues, particularly with the aircraft's wing design. The original constant dihedral angle from root to tip led to directional instability. North American's engineers quickly addressed this by modifying the wing to a gull wing configuration, with the outer section set horizontally. This change, along with modifications to the tail fin shape, resulted in an aircraft with excellent handling characteristics. Production of the B-25 ramped up quickly. The first B-25s were delivered to the Army Air Corps in February 1941. Lee Atwood suggested naming the new bomber after General William Billy Mitchell, a passionate advocate for air power, who had passed away in 1936. The Army agreed, and the B-25 Mitchell was born. Even as the first B-25s were rolling off the production line, North American was already working on improved versions. The original B-25 was soon joined by the B-25A, which introduced crew armor and self-sealing fuel tanks. Crews were impressed with the aircraft's handling characteristics and its ability to absorb battle damage, but with the United States yet to join World War II, these early models were limited to transport and training roles. As 1941 wore on, North American completed its initial contract with the B-25B model, which featured a significant upgrade in armament, replacing the pea-shooters and single 50 caliber gun of earlier models with two Bendix turrets installed in the rear fuselage. The top turret housed two 50 caliber guns, while the retractable bottom turret contained an additional pair. This arrangement allowed a single gunner to cover almost any angle of approach, dramatically improving the aircraft's defensive capabilities. This model would thrust the Mitchell into the spotlight with the audacious Doolittle raid in April 1942. In the aftermath of the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, American military leaders were desperate to strike back at Japan. Navy Captain Francis Lowe proposed the idea of launching Army bombers from an aircraft carrier to bomb the Japanese home islands. Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle was tasked with determining if it was possible. Doolittle quickly settled on the B-25B as the best aircraft for the job. Its combination of range, bomb load, and takeoff performance made it uniquely suited for this mission. However, significant modifications were necessary to increase range and reduce weight. At Eglin Field in Florida, Doolittle and his hand-picked crews began an intensive training program. They practiced short takeoffs, low-level and night flying, and navigation. Meanwhile, their B-25Bs were modified with additional fuel tanks, a 7.62mm machine gun mounted in the rear, and the removal of the lower gun turret and heavy radio equipment. On April 18, 1942, the flight deck of USS Hornet pitched in the rough seas of the Western Pacific. At 8:20 a.m., the first B-25B, piloted by Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle himself, began its precarious takeoff roll. With mere feet to spare, it lifted off, setting the stage for one of the war's most daring missions. One by one, the heavily laden bombers lumbered down the short deck, their engines straining against physics and fate. By 9:19 a.m., all 16 B-25Bs were airborne, their crews steeling themselves for the dangerous task ahead. The launch point was 650 miles farther from Japan than planned, stretching their fuel reserves to the limit. After a tense, low-level flight across the Pacific, the B-25s reached the Japanese coast. At precisely 12:15 p.m., Doolittle's aircraft passed over its target, the heart of Tokyo. Bombs whistled earthward, striking military and industrial sites. The other B-25s followed suit, hitting targets across Tokyo, Yokohama, Kobe, and Nagoya. As air raid sirens wailed across cities that had never before experienced an air attack, confused Japanese citizens and military personnel alike scrambled for cover. Anti-aircraft fire was sporadic and ineffective. The attackers had achieved complete surprise. The physical damage inflicted was minimal, but the psychological impact was immense. The myth of Japan's invulnerability lay shattered. Emperor Hirohito, witnessing the attack from the Imperial Palace, was shaken. The raid forced Japan to recall fighter units for home defense and directly influenced the fateful decision to attack Midway, a battle that would prove to be a turning point in the Pacific War. Meanwhile, North American aviation continued to refine the B-25 design. Throughout 1942, more and more squadrons began to feature the new B-25C and B-25D models, which were identical apart from the place of manufacture, with the C-Series produced in Inglewood and the D-Series in Kansas City. These variants featured improved Wright R2613 engines, increased fuel capacity, and provisions for external fuel tanks or bombs. Soon enough, B-25s were seeing action across the globe. In North Africa, B-25s began operations in October 1942, assisting the Allied landings in Operation Torch and providing air support at the Second Battle of El Alamein. These aircraft proved effective at attacking enemy airfields, troop concentrations, and supply lines. The B-25's versatility and durability made it well suited for the harsh desert conditions, allowing it to operate from rough forward airfields. The B-25 also found itself being adopted with increasing frequency by the other Allied powers. Its reputation for reliability and effectiveness led to it finding favor with various nations, starting with Britain, whose Royal Air Force received the aircraft as part of the Lend-Lease program and gave it the designation of Mitchell II, followed by the Soviet Union, which primarily used it for long-range reconnaissance and night-bombing missions. By the end of 1942, it had also been incorporated into Dutch and Australian forces operating in the Pacific Theater. Yet it was in the U.S. Army Air Force that the B-25 would undergo a dramatic transformation, under the innovative leadership of Major General George C. Kenney, commander of the 5th Air Force in the Southwest Pacific. Kenney, a firm believer in low-level attack tactics, was frustrated by the poor results of medium-altitude bombing against Japanese shipping. He turned to an unconventional problem solver, Major Paul Gunn. Affectionately known by his fellow pilots as Pappy, due to him being much older than most of them, Gunn was no ordinary officer. A former Navy pilot with a gift for mechanical improvisation, he had enlisted before his 17th birthday and spent 2 decades flying and fixing everything the Navy had. Coming out of retirement to join the war effort, Gunn had already made a name for himself by single-handedly saving American air power in the Pacific during the first half of 1942, leading impossible long-range flights, shuttling aircraft and parts, and even creating hidden jungle bases. His mechanical genius had breathed new life into 100 wrecked fighters, previously deemed beyond salvage. Now, under Kenney's directive, Gunn began modifying B-25s into low-level attack aircraft. He removed the bombardier from the nose and replaced him with 4 forward-firing 50-caliber machine guns. Additional guns were added in blisters on the sides of the fuselage. Gunn's modifications were as unorthodox as they were effective, transforming the B-25 from a middling bomber into a fearsome commerce destroyer. These modified B-25s were paired with a new tactic called skip bombing. Flying at mast height, often below 200 feet, the B-25s would release their bombs with a 4 to 5 second delay fuse. The bombs would skip across the water like stones, slamming into the sides of enemy ships. On March 3, 1943, the innovative tactics of the modified B-25s were put to the test in the Battle of the Bismarck Sea, one of the most decisive air and sea battles of the Pacific War. Allied reconnaissance spotted a Japanese convoy attempting to reinforce their garrison at Lae, New Guinea. As dawn broke, waves of Allied aircraft, including the modified B-25 commerce destroyers, took to the skies. The B-25s approached their targets at wave-top height, their engines roaring as they skimmed the ocean surface. Japanese ships loomed on the horizon, still unaware of the impending attack. At 10 a.m., the first B-25s commenced their runs. Flying at speeds over 200 miles per hour, barely 50 feet above the waves, they unleashed a barrage of fire from their nose-mounted 50-caliber guns. Tracer rounds arced across the sky, suppressing the ship's anti-aircraft defenses. Moments later, bombs were released, skipping across the water like stones before slamming into the vessel's sides. Over the next 2 days, the relentless assault continued. B-25 darted in and out of the fray, braving intense anti-aircraft fire and swarms of Japanese fighters, yet finding their mark time and time again. The results were devastating and decisive. When the smoke cleared, all 8 Japanese transports and 4 of the 8 destroyers lay at the bottom of the Bismarck Sea. Of the 6,900 troops aboard the transports, only about 1,200 made it to Leh, many rescued from the water by the surviving destroyers. The Battle of the Bismarck Sea had demonstrated, beyond any doubt, the lethal effectiveness of low-level B-25 attacks against shipping. The commerce destroyers had lived up to their name, dealing a crippling blow to Japanese naval operations in the Southwest Pacific and changing the course of the war in the region. Soon enough, these modified Mitchells were joined in the low-level attack role by an official new variant, the B-25G. This model introduced a 75mm M4 cannon in the nose, along with 2 fixed 50 caliber machine guns. The intention was to create a powerful tank-busting and ship-sinking weapon. The concept wasn't entirely new. The Army Air Corps had experimented with a 75mm cannon on a Douglas B-18 in 1938. However, integrating such a massive weapon into the B-25 presented unique challenges, such as shortening the bomber's nose by 26 inches in order to accommodate the cannon. Despite initial skepticism from Wright Field engineers, who argued the modifications were impracticable, the B-25G entered production. Major General Kenny, buoyed by the success of the B-25 modifications in the Pacific, championed the project. However, combat experience soon revealed the cannon's limitations. Its low rate of fire and difficulty in aiming from a moving aircraft made it less effective than hoped. These issues were clearly demonstrated on one of Pappy Gunn's early missions using the B-25G in July 1943. Despite unleashing 7 75mm rounds on a Japanese destroyer, no significant damage was done. Undeterred, North American Aviation developed the B-25H to address these shortcomings. This variant retained the cannon, now a lighter T-13E1 model, but added 4 fixed 50 caliber guns in the nose and 2 more in fuselage blisters. The top turret was moved forward, and the tail section was redesigned to accommodate twin 50 caliber guns. Despite these improvements, many crews still found the multiple 50 caliber machine gun configuration more effective for strafing and suppressing anti-aircraft fire. Mitchell pilot Lieutenant Peppy Blount later remarked, quote, "I never heard a B-25H pilot express regret at having that cannon taken from between his legs. Replacing the 75mm cannon with 12 forward-firing 50 caliber machine guns was the most destructive firepower that I saw in World War II." The cannon-equipped B-25s, while innovative, ultimately missed the mark. However, this experience led to the development of the B-25J, which would prove to be the most versatile and effective variant of the Mitchell bomber. The B-25J represented a return to the bomber's roots while incorporating the lessons learned from its gunship predecessors. It could be fitted with either a glass bombardier's nose for traditional medium-altitude bombing missions, or a solid nose containing 8 50 caliber machine guns for devastating low-level attacks. This dual-purpose capability made the J model suitable for a wide range of mission profiles. Unlike the cannon-equipped G and H models, the B-25J retained its co-pilot position, improving crew coordination and reducing pilot fatigue on long missions. It also featured improved Wright R2629 engines, providing better performance at altitude. The J model could carry a bomb load of up to 3,000 pounds and had a range of 1,350 miles, making it capable of both tactical and strategic operations. The B-25J's firepower was impressive. In its Strafer configuration, it could bring to bear up to 18 forward-firing 50 caliber machine guns, including those in the nose, fuselage-mounted blister packs, and the top turret. This turned the aircraft into a fearsome ground attack platform, capable of suppressing enemy defenses and wreaking havoc on ground targets. The J model's versatility and firepower made it highly popular across the war's various theaters. By the end of the war, 4,318 B-25Js had been produced, more than any other variant, testifying to its effectiveness and adaptability. In the Mediterranean theater, B-25s of the 12th Air Force played a crucial role in the Allied advance through Italy. Operating from bases in North Africa and later Italy itself, these aircraft struck at enemy communications, troop concentrations, and critical infrastructure. The Mitchell's famous toughness also proved useful in the China-Burma-India theater, where B-25s had to operate in some of the most challenging conditions of the war. There, the aircraft played a crucial role in supporting Allied ground forces and interdicting Japanese supply lines. The U.S. Marine Corps also made extensive use of the B-25, designating it the PBJ-1. Marine PBJs were often equipped with radar for anti-shipping strikes and night operations, which were vital in the island-hopping campaign across the Pacific. As the war progressed and Allied air superiority became more pronounced, B-25s increasingly took on close air support and interdiction roles. Their ability to deliver precise, heavy fire support made them invaluable to ground forces. Meanwhile, RAF Mitchells continued to operate over occupied Europe, striking at B-1 flying bomb sites, railroad yards, and other strategic targets in preparation for the D-Day invasion. By 1945, with the war drawing to a close, the B-25 had firmly established itself as one of the most successful medium bombers of the conflict. Its adaptability had seen it evolve from a traditional medium-altitude bomber to a low-level striker, commerce destroyer, and close support aircraft. In the final months of the war, B-25s participated in some of the conflict's last actions. They supported the Soviet advance into Manchuria, struck at the last vestiges of Japanese resistance in the Philippines and Dutch East Indies, and continued to interdict enemy shipping right up until the Japanese surrender. However, back in the United States, the Mitchell would hit the headlines on July 28th, when a U.S. Army Air Force B-25D, conducting a routine personnel transport flight from Massachusetts to New York, encountered thick fog and crashed into the north side of the Empire State Building. This tragic accident claimed the lives of 11 people in the building and the 3 on board the aircraft, including the pilot, Lieutenant Colonel William Franklin Jr. In the years following the war, the B-25 proved its versatility across a spectrum of roles. The newly formed U.S. Air Force converted many to TB-25 trainers, preparing the next generation of multi-engine pilots, while others found new lives as utility transports, VIP shuttles, and even aerial mapping platforms. Yet when the Korean War erupted in 1950, the B-25 was called back into action. While not serving in frontline combat roles, these veterans of World War II suddenly found themselves embroiled in a new kind of warfare. Some B-25s were transformed into flying propaganda machines, equipped with loudspeakers and leaflet dispensers. These aircraft would roar over North Korean positions, their powerful speakers blaring messages aimed at demoralizing the enemy or encouraging defection. Other Mitchells took on more conventional support roles. They served as command and control platforms, ferrying high-ranking officers to frontline briefings. Some were outfitted with specialized radar equipment for nighttime interdiction missions, hunting enemy supply convoys under the cover of darkness. The B-25's spacious fuselage also made it an ideal air ambulance, rapidly evacuating wounded soldiers from forward airfields to better-equipped rear hospitals. The B-25's ruggedness and reliability, qualities that had served it well in World War II, proved equally valuable in the harsh conditions of the Korean Peninsula. Whether conducting aerial reconnaissance over mountainous terrain or navigating through treacherous weather, the Mitchell continued to demonstrate its worth in yet another conflict. As the 1950s progressed and jet aircraft began to dominate military aviation, the B-25 found a new purpose in civilian hands. Across the American West, Borate bombers fought wildfires, while others served as executive transports or starred in Hollywood productions. Outside the United States, the B-25 continued its military service well into the 60s, serving various air forces from Canada to Brazil, Mexico to Australia. Each nation found unique uses for the versatile bomber, from coastal patrol to search and rescue missions. By May 1960, the last B-25 had been retired from USAF service, but its legacy was far from over. From its dramatic debut in the Doolittle raid to its innovative use as a commerce destroyer in the Pacific, the B-25 proved to be one of the most versatile aircraft of World War II. The Mitchell's legacy extends beyond its wartime achievements. It played a crucial role in the development of close air support tactics, demonstrating the effectiveness of low-level strafing and bombing runs. These lessons would influence military aviation doctrine for decades and set a precedent for future aircraft design, particularly its ability to be modified for a wide range of missions, showing the value of flexible, multi-role platforms. Today, many B-25s continue to fly as warbirds, thrilling airshow crowds and educating new generations about the aircraft's history. Others stand as silent sentinels in museums around the world. The B-25 Mitchell, named for a visionary of air power, more than lived up to its namesake. It helped prove the effectiveness of air power, paving the way for the modern air forces of today.